Good afternoon, everyone. We are from Padungsit Pitya School, Team Socks, not Sock. My name is Darina Bunchu, Nan, M5.
My name is Nalosha Kanvisha Le M5.
My name is Udom Saksibot. I'm in M3.
My name is Pianat Gande, job M1.
Sir Charlie's Stinky Socks and the Really Big Adventure by Christina Stevenson. Once upon a time, there was a deep, dark forest where monstrous trees grew. Terrible beasties moaned, and wiggly woos waited to tickle your toes. In the middle of the forest, surrounded by thorny bushes, there stood a tall, tall tower with a pointy roof. At the bottom of the tower was a big wooden door. Inside the tower, a windy staircase didn't stop winding until it reached a little wooden door right at the very top. And what was behind that little wooden door? Well, nobody knew because nobody ever went there.
The end.
At least, not until the day when...
A bold, brave knight, Sir Charlie Stinky Socks and his faithful fearless cat, Envelope, decided that the time had come for a really big adventure. Sir Charlie picked his best sword, packed some sandwiches, a big bottle of water, and a favorite little something for the journey, just in case. And with a song in his heart, he mounted his good grey mare.
Clip, clop, clippity, clippity, clop.
Over the hills and far away rode Sir Charlie and his cat.
Oh, and the wily witch with the watch followed behind on the balloon.
At last, they came to a deep, dark forest where monstrous trees grew and terrible beasties moaned. Envelope shivered. The good grey mare quivered.
While the witch with the watch covered her eyes.
But brave Sir Charlie stood steady in his boots. Shh, he whispered into the boots.
Tis I, Sir Charlie Stinky Socks, with a song to suit you. La 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 la.
As Sir Charlie sang his lullaby, the trees stopped groaning. But the terrible beasts went on moaning.
Stop your moaning!
Cried the knight.
Come out and eat me if you dare.
Out of the darkness crept 6 slobbering beasties. That fearless cat Envelope scuppered. The good grey mare fled.
And even the wily witch with the watch trembled behind the tree.
But bold Sir Charlie did not turn. Brave Sir Charlie did not run. Instead, he drew his trusty sword and did what any good knight would do. He smiled and cut up his sandwiches. The beasties stood and stared. They were hairy, hideous creatures indeed, but they were more scared of Sir Charlie Stinky Socks than he was of them. Charlie fed the beasties, and the beasties stopped moaning.
And the wily witch with the watch looked on with a grin and checked the time.
But this was no way to end a really big adventure. So, Sir Charlie Stinky Socks rescued his cat, rallied his good grey mare, and set off once again, never minding the wiggly woos who wait in the grass or the 6 not-so-terrible beasties who followed him. The forest grew thicker and the bushes became thorny. Lucky for Envelope and the good grey mare that Sir Charlie Stinky Socks led away with his trusty sword.
Whooshty track, shopty, shopty, shop.
It was thirsty work for a bold, brave knight. How glad he was to have a big bottle of water by his side.
And then, at last, they came to a clearing in the trees where the sun threw down its pale yellow light onto a tall, tall tower with a pointy roof. But it also threw its light onto a long green dragon. He was frightful and fearsome and coughing out fire while he stomped in a temper around the tower.
Ha ha!
But Sir Charlie Stinky Socks
Just the thing for a really big adventure. Stop your roaring, dragon.
commanded.
But the dragon did not stop. He went on coughing out fire. He went on belching out smoke. And now his eyes were fixed firmly on Sir Charlie Stinky Socks. Was this the end of the line for the bold, brave knight? Oh my!
Envelope didn't hang around to find out, and neither did a good grey man.
Only a worried wily witch and a couple of wiggly woos watched.
But bold Sir Charlie did not flinch. Brave Sir Charlie did not flicker. He took out his big bottle of water and kind, clever Sir Charlie Stinky Socks gave that old dragon a long, cool drink,
Ah!
Now you stop coughing.
said the knight to the long green dragon.
Tell me what's at the top of this tower.
The dragon looked up. The dragon looked at Sir Charlie. The dragon scratched his scaly head and said,
My dear old thing, I haven't a clue. It's not a dragon's place to ask, you know. Just to do.
Then why don't we find out?
said Sir Charlie with a grin.
The wily witch took one last look at her watch, jumped for joy, and flew off on her broom as Charlie pushed open the big wooden door. Up the windy staircase marched Sir Charlie Stinky Socks. He didn't stop marching until he had taken his faithful cat Envelope, his good grey mare, 6 not so terrible beasties, a very curious long green dragon, and a couple of wiggly woos right to the very top. There, he opened the little wooden door and peeped in.
A big black cauldron stood in the middle of the room, and sturdy it was the wily witch. Of course, by her side sat a little princess, weeping and wailing in a pool of tears. Sir Charlie looked at the princess. Sir Charlie looked at the bubbling pot. Sir Charlie didn't wait another minute. He drew his trusty sword and bounded over to rescue the little princess,
Stop your weeping.
cried the knight.
Sir Charlie Stinky Socks is here to save you from the pot.
The witch cackled with laughter,
I'm not going to cook the princess.
squealed the witch.
I'm cooking the food for her birthday party. It's today at 3, you see. I do it every year, you know. I blow up balloons boom, and decorate the tower. I send out invitations, hundreds of them. And looky here.
She cried, tip-tapping at the face of her watch.
It's nearly 3. Yippee!
Then why are you crying, princess?
Asked Sir Charlie.
Because
Shrieked the princess.
we live at the top of a windy staircase in a tall tower with a pointy roof, surrounded by thorns and guarded by a fire-breathing dragon, and is in the middle of a deep, dark forest where wiggly woos wait in the grass to tickle your toes, hungry beasties moan, and monstrous trees groan, so nobody ever comes.
Oh, yes, they do.
Said Sir Charlie as he flung open the door.
Behold, Sir Charlie Stinky Socks and his friend.
Wow!
That night, the lights burned brightly in a tall tower with a pointy roof, as a happy little princess had a rip-rolling good time.
Yeah!
When the candles had been blown out and the cake eaten up, Sir Charlie Stinky Socks took out the favorite little something he had brought from home, just in case, and gave it to the princess.
Many happy returns of the day.
He said, and everyone cheered.
Hooray! 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 Because that's what people do at the end of a really big adventure.